După experiențele trăite în mijlocul Statelor Unite ale Americii, echipa Agora s-a îndreptat în una din cele mai dezvoltate regiuni economice din această țară, statul California, mai exact regiunea Silicon Valley. Pentru început am decis să vizităm una din cele mai prestigioase universități din lume, Universitatea Stanford din Palo Alto. Acolo am discutat cu profesorul universitar, omul de afaceri și unul dintre fondatorii regiunii Silicon Valley, William Miller.
Silicon Valley is not new. People often think it's new because they only heard about it in the last 30 years. But Silicon Valley is more than 100 years old. The real start came in 1911. A Stanford student, Sewell Erwell, started a company called Federal Telegraph. So Federal Telegraph, quite a number of things. They made radio stations, but they made the equipment and so forth you needed for a radio station. So a big ecosystem grew around that. Stanford faculty supported them. They wanted to say this was kind of the Wild West at the time. And they wanted to grow an industry here for the students, our graduates, to go work in some industry. Otherwise, they'd have to go 300 miles, 3,000 miles across the country to work in technology and so forth. The president of Stanford University contributed $500 of his own money to Federal Telegraph to help it get started. So it can't be much more entrepreneurial than that if the president of the university is an angel investor. He was an angel investor. So over time then, other industries grew, but for half of the life of Silicon Valley, the main technology was radio vacuum tubes, different applications of it, but that was the main technology. Then later came other industries. Semiconductors, of course, replaced radio vacuum tubes. And then we had software, we had biotech, and today we're very fortunate because we have all of those. Well, I can give you a little report because a professor in engineering, Charles Easley, and I did a report in 2012. We studied the graduates from Stanford and the companies that they had started. It turns out they'd started 69,000 companies. 30,000 were nonprofit, which was very interesting because I felt good about that because that meant the broader spirit was alive. It wasn't just about money. Economic impact, if you looked at the current revenues, these were 2011 revenues, looked at the current revenues of all those companies that the Stanford graduates had started, it would be $2.7 trillion. To put that in perspective, that was half the GDP of China at the time. Now, some of these were Chinese students that started companies in China, but 60% of them were out here. The rest of them were in other parts of the world, including China and Europe, Israel, places like that. I think the main thing is that the programs here, also at the other universities around, give people the background, they give them the knowledge, technical knowledge and so forth. We have executives who come in and play the role of faculty and talk about how to start companies, and so we have a lot of that. The key here is that there is a two-way interaction between the university and industry. The university people learn from industry people learn from the university, so it's a two-way interaction, and that's really very important. There are three ways to get economic growth. One way is to improve the factor inputs, the land, labor, the quality of the labor, improve that. That gets economic growth. The second is through trade and comparative advantage. It means one country does what it can do best, another country what it can do best, and they trade. The third is through innovation and entrepreneurship. In many countries, we've already exhausted the amount that we can gain through comparative advantage. So we have to rely on new things, entrepreneurship, innovation, and that's why it's so critical to the economic growth of a region. Well, it's not skills, it's attitude. Skills are important, of course, but it's attitude. Not being afraid to fail, that's important. When I first came here, I met Bill Hewlett, who was one of the founders of Hewlett-Packard, one of the distinguished companies. He told me three things. He said, Bill, I'll tell you these three things about Silicon Valley. One, it's okay to change your job. Don't stay in one job all the time. You learn something new by going to other jobs. He said that's really important. He said the other thing is it's okay to talk to your competitors. You don't give away your trade secret, but you learn a lot of tacit knowledge in talking to your competitors. He said the third thing, it's okay to fail. And that ability to face failure and not be afraid of it, and if you fail, start over. And I've been an investor in 26 different companies over time. I'm founder of four companies. Two of my companies failed, two were a big success. Of these 26 companies, I only had about 6 that were really big hits. The rest of them were failures. But the most important question is, who wants it? Who wants it? I mean, is there a market for it? That's the hardest question, because a lot of people can think of many interesting things to do, but nobody wants it. And so that's the key question, understanding the market. Maybe you have to make a market. Then what do? You hire different people to make a market than you hire if you're going to serve into an existing market. So that's a key question, who wants it? And the next question is, how much money will it take over what period of time before you're successful? Because many young entrepreneurs say, well, you give me $2 million, I can build a company. Not so. I mean, they'll get so far with it, but then they need more money, and then they'll need more money. So they have to understand how much money it takes over time to build to a profitable company. And then, of course, they have to know whether they've got the right people. Do they have the right people to build the kind of company that they're thinking about? Those are 4 very critical issues. Some of the reasons for failure, not all, there are a lot of reasons for failing. My 2 companies that failed because of the recession we had in 2008. But one of the major reasons companies fail, technology companies fail, is that principals fall in love with the technology instead of falling in love with the business. If you're trying to teach people about entrepreneurship, the most important thing is to teach them the business side of it and go through the process of building a company and show where the technical decisions are made and where the business decisions are made. And I think that's really critical. Well, I think anybody can become an entrepreneur, but maybe everybody should not, but anybody can become an entrepreneur. But as I said, the attitudes, the idea of persistence, little things defeat you. You have to keep moving on and continual learning. Learn from anybody you can. And I think that's very important for entrepreneurs. It's almost more of an attitude than it is the skills. I suppose attitude and skills are maybe hard to separate, but those attitudes I think are very important.